Welcome to English Language Academy. I spent 7 days living in the wild with no supplies. Here's how I survived day 1. The shock of the wild. When I first stepped into the dense forest, the silence felt heavy. I had no supplies, not even a knife or matches. It was just me and nature. At first, it seemed exciting, like an adventure. But within an hour, the reality of my situation sank in. I was alone, and I had no plan. My first task was to find water. Walking along a narrow trail, I searched for signs of a stream or river. The sound of flowing water eventually led me to a small brook. I cupped my hands and drank the cold, clear water. It tasted refreshing, but I knew I couldn't drink unfiltered water for long without risking illness. Next, I needed shelter. I found a fallen tree with branches thick enough to block the wind. Using leaves, moss, and small sticks, I built a simple lean-to. It wasn't perfect, but it felt good to have a place to rest. Day 2. Learning the hard way. The first night was rough. I shivered under my makeshift shelter, unable to sleep. The forest sounds were terrifying, rustling leaves, distant howls, and the occasional crack of a branch. When morning came, I felt exhausted and hungry. I decided to focus on food. Remembering some survival tips, I searched for edible plants. I found some wild berries, but I wasn't sure if they were safe. To avoid poisoning myself, I only ate a few and waited to see if I had any reaction. Luckily, they were safe. By the afternoon, I decided to try fishing. With no tools, I made a spear from a sharp stick and stood by the brook. It took hours of patience, but I finally caught a small fish. Roasting it over a fire would have been ideal, but without matches, I had to eat it raw. It wasn't pleasant, but it gave me much-needed energy. Day 3. Building skills. On the third day, I was determined to make fire. I remembered seeing a method where you rub 2 sticks together. It took endless effort, but after what felt like forever, I managed to create a small flame. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. I used the fire to cook another fish and stay warm that night. I also improved my shelter by adding more branches and making a bed of soft moss. Sleeping on the ground was cold and uncomfortable, so this small improvement made a big difference. Day 4. Finding a rhythm. By now I had a routine: fetch water, gather food, and maintain my shelter. I became more confident in identifying safe plants and berries. I even found wild mushrooms that added variety to my diet. I noticed animal tracks near my shelter, which made me nervous. To protect myself, I built a small barrier of sticks around my sleeping area. It wasn't much, but it made me feel safer. Day 5. The mental battle. The loneliness hit me hard on the 5th day. I missed home, warm meals, and human interaction. To distract myself, I explored deeper into the forest. I found a large, open meadow with beautiful wildflowers. Sitting there in the sun, I felt a rare moment of peace. I also crafted a makeshift tool, a digging stick, to help me search for edible roots. It wasn't as effective as a real tool, but it worked well enough to uncover some small tubers. Day 6. Adapting to the wild. By this point, I felt like I was becoming part of the forest. I could identify the sounds of different animals and knew where to find the best food sources. I made a new discovery: tree sap. It was sticky and sweet, providing a quick source of energy. I also figured out how to catch more fish using a simple trap made from stones and sticks. Day 7. A new perspective. On the final day, I reflected on my journey. The forest no longer felt like a hostile place. Instead, it was a home that provided everything I needed, if I was willing to work for it. As the sun set, I packed my small belongings, a few tools and leftover food, and prepared to leave. Walking out of the forest felt bittersweet. I was relieved to return to the comforts of modern life, but I also felt a deep respect for the wild and the lessons it had taught me. Survival tips I learned: water is priority 1. Always find a reliable water source first. Fire is life. Fire provides warmth, protection, and a way to cook food. Know your plants. Study which wild plants are edible before venturing into the wild. Shelter matters. A good shelter keeps you safe from the elements and predators. Stay positive. Mental strength is as important as physical survival skills. This experience changed me forever. I learned that survival is not just about strength or knowledge. It's about adaptability, patience, and respect for nature. Thanks for watching English Language Academy. Subscribe now.